Join the sexual evolution and get ready for Sex is Medicine. Sex is Medicine is your #1 resource for holistic sex education. Explore the connection between sexuality and spirituality, pleasure and personal growth. Discover the art of using pleasure as medicine and reclaim your birthright to more joy, more pleasure, and more satisfaction in every area of your life with Devi Ward.
Hey everybody, welcome to Sex is Medicine. I am your host, Miss Devi Ward Erickson, and I am so delighted to have you here with us again this evening. We broadcast live the first Thursday of every month. We are here showing up on your screen. And I have a wonderful, wonderful guest to share with you this evening with some brilliant wisdom. Before we dig into that though, I want to toot my own horn. I want to share a celebration with all of you fabulous folks who are listening and following and joining in and tuning in and are interested in the work that we offer to the world. So big celebration. I think I shared this with you last month? Yes, last month I did when it first happened, that we are, our school, the Institute of Authentic Tantra Education, is the first and only government accredited school for Tantra as a holistic sexual healing modality. We are the only ones on the planet, like at all ever. So we did the thing that nobody else on this planet has ever done, and tooting the horn. And I also want to share this, like another level of excitement with all of this is that not only are we government accredited, but the modality of Tantra that we teach, which is rooted in the Tibetan 5-element tantric healing practices, now has been officially recognized by the government as a valid healing modality. So our national occupational code for our graduates, when they're filling out insurance forms and all that sort of thing, is practitioners of natural healing. So officially becoming a certified authentic Tantra practitioner also gives you the title or the occupational code of practitioner of natural healing. That is fucking phenomenal. Also, our classification of study, according to the Canadian government, is Oriental medicine. So that's phenomenal. Like, it's huge. It's monumental. It's moving mountains kind of stuff. And I'm excited and obviously and want to celebrate and share this, but I also want to say that, like, this is the result of Tantra. Like, this is the result of lineage-based tantric practice. You can do shit that nobody else can do. And not as an ego trip, but it's just, we want to bring this medicine. It is medicine, it is healing, it is necessary to alleviate sexual suffering on this planet. If you can even glimpse like how much sexual suffering and how much sexual dysfunction there is. We were just talking before the show about all the shame and the guilt and the fear around our sexuality, and yet it is our creative life force, which we're going to talk about in the show today. It is where we all come from, and we're terrified of where we come from. How insane is that? There is so much unnecessary and needless pain and suffering on this planet because people are in fear and pain about their sexuality. And these tools, these Tibetan 5-element healing practices, woven with somatic healing, woven with trauma, an understanding of how trauma impacts the nervous system and our physiology, woven with movement practices, all of these together create the most effective and potent healing modality to specifically address the issue of sexual suffering on this planet. And we just got certified by the government, the stamp of approval saying, y'all are legit, and this modality is legit. It's huge. It is fucking game changer. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you to my guest, who also is one of our graduates from our certification training program. She is a certified authentic Tantra practitioner, a very accomplished Vajrayana Tantric Dakini, studies under our Lama, Lama Tashi Dundrup from KawaiiDharma.org. That is our root Lama and our teacher and the person who sanctioned us to be sharing and teaching this medicine. And I finally get to have you on my show.
Yay!
So I want to share with my audience all of your greatness. So I rarely do this, as I said, but I'm actually going to read your bio because this is a freaking awesome bio. So, so our guest, the fabulous Miss Rosie Bitts. That's how I've always known her, fabulous Miss Rosie Bitts, and she is a multi-award-winning performer, producer, author, educator, and tantrika. She is one of the pioneers who brought the art form of burlesque to Vancouver Island and has since taught hundreds of women this beautiful and fun, creative art, as well as performing for thousands of people across North America. She's an incredible performer and singer. You have to see her if you have an opportunity. Certified authentic Tantra practitioner, and has loved mixing Tantra into both her personal and professional life. So thank you so much for joining us this evening, Rosie.
Thank you so much, Devi. What a beautiful introduction. And yeah, and congratulations. Thank you for moving this mountain for all of us as practitioners, as students. Like, man, you know, when our root of everything we do is to bring enlightenment to all sentient beings, you just made that a whole hell of a lot easier.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yay, awesome. So let's start with burlesque in general, because many people are familiar with it, but maybe not everyone. They've maybe heard of burlesque, but they don't really get it. So what is burlesque as an art form?
Oh, burlesque is so many things, which is why I've not lost interest in almost 15 years of doing this art form. Yeah, so the core of burlesque, like true burlesque before even striptease, burlesque was to subvert something, to turn it on its head. So you would burlesque something, which would mean like you would make a mockery of it. And I think that's truly at the root of the art form of what we do. And, you know, in and of itself, if you see a person on the stage, sensually, you know, in their power, and they're taking off their clothes for you, that's fucking subversive. And everything else is like layers on top of that, right? So it's a wide art form in neo-burlesque. You know, you'll see everything. Like this show that I've been doing for many years is with band called the Dirty Boys. And we do very classic stuff, jazz and blues. And I do what you would see with like feather fans. And you would imagine that you could probably step into a club in the 1920s and see my show. And then there's people who are doing performance art. There's people who are using burlesque. I have like this incredible group of Indigenous women here in Victoria who are exploding, and they are using burlesque as you know, a radical way of pushing their message forward. So it encompasses everything from something fun and silly to very political to avant-garde. You can throw it all in there, but every part of it is subverting. It's subversion.
And does it always include dance or some kind of movement as the medium of expression?
It doesn't have to. It generally does. Generally, we're movers at the very least, but it really doesn't have to. I've seen burlesque, you know, where people are sitting still, right? I've seen, and this is also what's beautiful about the art form, is you can do this art form from a wheelchair. I've seen elderly women do it from a walker, right? It's about the attitude and the art as opposed to your body having to move in a certain way. Whatever body you have, if you want to get on the burlesque stage, I'm going to help you get on the burlesque stage, and we will figure it out.
And so you are literally one of the pioneers who founded the burlesque movement on Vancouver Island. So you've been teaching for how long?
I've been teaching for 11 years here.
Okay.
And yeah, and it's been, burlesque here has been going on for about, I don't know, 14, 15 years. Before me, and there's another group called the Cheesecake Burlesque Review, who I started with. There was one solitary woman on this island doing burlesque, Bettina May. Shout out to Bettina May, who's at a Las Vegas, I believe, these days. You know, doing it by herself. And then a few of us joined, she left, and we created, you know, everything that you have here, essentially. We kind of started and pushed it. They call me the mama of burlesque here, because probably 95% of the burlesque performers have come through my classes.
So what have women gained through going through your classes? I know burlesque is an expressive art, and there's like a process of reclamation. I would imagine that's similar to erotic dance like I used to teach. So what have you seen through the years teaching women and training women in how to express themselves through this art form?
Wow, I am just so overwhelmed by what my students have gone on to do. Like, I am deeply moved by the level of vulnerability that people come to me with. Usually they're women or people in general, because I have men as well, but less men, and non-binary folk and trans folk as well, come to me at a transition in their life. And they know they need something more, and they've kind of left their body and they're not feeling connected to their body, they're not feeling connected to their sexuality, and they know that there's something more, but they don't know what it is. And I see people like, man, explode through trauma, like explode out of a small space. I see people changing their lives. I see people going on to change lives of other people. Like, there are people who've, you know, left their jobs and do this as a living now, who are my students, who are photographers, who are, you know, making things in the burlesque world like pasties, who are teaching burlesque, who are, you know, professional performers, and they're going off and impacting other people. And even just the regular people who come through are able to go back into their lives feeling more confident. Like, they bring this to all aspects of their lives, and they feel a deeper sense of who they are and supported. You know, we have a beautiful community here, and once you're in, like, chances are you're not leaving. We want to hold on to you. We're going to love you up. You're going to have people, you know, taking care of you, cooking you your meals if you're pregnant, or checking on you if you're sick, or, you know, bringing you flowers if your dog dies. Like, it's a whole life thing. It's not just you're going to shake your boobs on stage one time.
Beautiful. And so it sounds like it's a healing practice, or it can be used as a healing practice. So what have you seen when you've added Tantra to it?
Oh my God. It's a game changer, like absolute game changer. My students, so last night we did this class, and I was moved to tears more than once. Most of my students were as well. So it was an intermediate class, and we get into some very deep performance. We were doing charisma and eye fucking, which is a burlesque thing, eye fucking, right? But mixing it from the state of coming from a place of deep generosity. So coming from a place of having everything we do, whether we're doing it in our personal lives or we're bringing it to the stage, as being a form essentially of Tantra, of doing it for the highest good of all concerned. And what a huge game changer. Like, when my students started to get this concept and they were grappling with it and playing it with it last night, what was coming out just in the exercises that we were doing were like, it was profound. They were doing things that moments before they were like, no fucking way, I'm not doing this, right? Where they had some blocks and some challenges, but when we made it about, you know, doing it for the highest good of everybody was able to step into their highest self and perform on a completely different level, because it took the pressure off. Right? Like, when you're doing it from this perspective that you and I live from a tantric perspective, it takes the pressure off, because it's not ego-based anymore. It's for everybody, right?
And how important is it, do you feel, or as you've witnessed, how important is it for the people, the humans that you work with, to be willing to access their sexuality as part of their creative expression? Because we talk a lot about creativity, but there's this disconnect, as I'm going to put this on so we can see each other here. So, but there's this disconnect, as we were kind of talking about before the show. There's this, like, you know, like, sexuality has so much stigma and so much fear and so much shame and so much repression around it. So, like, people don't even want other people to know that they're listening to the show because it says sex, right? So there's this disconnect, and yet creative expression is like, it's a core need as a human being. So how important is it, do you believe, for people to be able to tap into that sexuality in order to fully access their creative ability?
I think it's integral. Like, in my mind, you know, it's kind of like, I have a Holy Trinity in my mind, and that's sexuality, spirituality, and creativity. And so for me, those three things are like, if they are not being interwoven, you're going to have dis-ease in some area of your life. And people are desperate. People are desperate to feel enlivened in their sexuality. They're desperate to let go of shame, right? And they want, and I'm so lucky that I get to be with people who aren't just desperate for that, but they're willing to create space for other people by going and doing it on stage.
Yeah.
Right, which is really creating a safe space for other people to look in and to feel like, oh, I get that. I like that normalizes things. I can do that. I can be that. I see a reflection of myself.
Yeah, so it sounds like that's so healing, because you say like do it on stage, and like that's like the last place anyone wants to be vulnerable. It's like want to run screaming. So it sounds like in this the container that's created in the beautiful blend that you've created, which is tantric burlesque. Really, it's like a sacred space, or a sacred, I'm going to say, container for people to use this modality as a form of self-realization and holding sacred space for the birthing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That's absolutely what it is. It's really, it's a place for all of those things to bubble up, right? It's a place for people to get deeply in touch with that, with their sexuality and their expression of sexuality, which is so important, with their expression of creativity, which is unique and individual to everybody, and to do it in a place that is spiritually centered with right intention.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. And do you find that it's easier or maybe more accessible for people to explore their sexuality through this creative medium of dance, of artistic expression, as opposed to like, okay, I'm going to touch my genitals now and really like get in there and start uprooting stuff, right? But this is kind of like, this is a way to access that isn't going directly to the genitals. It's a non-genitally based form of sexual exploration.
I think there's a couple different ways in, right? And that's where I've got my burlesque classes that I throw Tantra in. A lot of people come and they're like, I don't know, we're going to freaking meditate. I don't know, we're going to talk about sex and our vaginas, right? And then I've got my Tantra classes and they're like, I didn't know we're going to move and we're going to have to learn sensual movement. And I kind of just blend it all in. And it's about creating, I think, a pathway and opening depending on the person. Because there is that deep need to explore, like I said, the sexuality, spirituality, and creativity. And if you create a number of paths, then different people can access it. And for some, it's easier to go in through a creative means, right? That feels safer. And for others, it's like, I'll go home and masturbate and do a full tantric masturbation, but I don't want anybody to know, or I'm not going to move my body in other sensual ways. And so I encourage that sensuality to come into all aspects of their lives.
So let's talk a little bit about sensuality. What does that mean to you?
Oh, I love sensuality. My son and I were just talking about this, and he was saying how he felt. So my son is 25, beautiful Daka, who is doing beautiful work in the world, healing toxic masculinity.
Amen.
Amen. And he was talking about how he just really feels that people of his age group shy away from sensuality, and it's almost like a dirty word to them. So for me, sensuality is getting deeply into your senses, your five senses, being able to experience the world that we have through our bodies, right? And tapping into the pleasure that we have, rather than just being like, okay, I see things, I'm on the computer, this is my sense right now, maybe I hear things and that's it. It's like, oh, I feel this fabric touching my skin, right? And I smell like my candle burning, and I'm feeling like the softness of this and the air, and I'm hearing, your voice, and all those things that are our expression of living, which gets us, actually, sensuality gets us back into our bodies, which is deeply important.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, it's like I've always thought of our senses as antennas, like the way that we experience this physical realm. It's the interplay between the outer and the inner, right?
Yeah.
And how we become so armored in our everyday life that we kind of lose access to that. We have these, like you were talking about, we're not paying attention. So what are some simple, easy ways that you would recommend for folks to reconnect with their sensual awareness?
Move. Number one, just move. You don't have to take a dance class. It doesn't have to be organized. You don't have to leave your house and go to yoga. Put on your favorite song and start to move your body, right? And just go into a place where you're safe, where you're not going to feel judged, when nobody else is going to watch you, and just feel how good it feels to move your body. Like that would be number one for me, right? It doesn't have to be organized. Just get back into your body. And as little children, we dance and we skip and we play constantly. We're in constant movement. And as adults, we learn not to do that. So number one, move your fucking body. We are born into these beautiful things. Utilize it.
So I love that, and I hear that, and that's my go-to as well.
Yeah.
And I've encountered humans that have trauma or pain around movement. Like they have a version of movement. It's like movement is like they would rather stick hot pokers in their eyes rather than move.
Yeah.
So any suggestions or recommendations for folks who have pain around moving?
I think there's so many ways in. Like one of the deep joys that I'm experiencing, which has been hard for me, and I have had aversion to, but I've been sharing with my students, is Mahamudra, right? Just sitting quietly, which is pretty much the opposite, but sitting quietly with no thought. Another way to experience, just allowing the experience of being a human to surround you, right? There's not a need then to go and move or do something out of your comfort zone. Most people are comfortable sitting quietly, but it becomes very challenging to just be observant of your thoughts rather than be deeply connected into your thoughts as we are, right? So that's another practice that we are doing. Like in my classes, we are doing quite a bit right now, and that I'm cultivating, because that's not my go-to.
So if someone was going to take a class with you, where would they start? Like, where do we start? Like, I don't know much about burlesque, don't know much about Tantra. Like, where would you begin with someone like me? I mean, like my fake me, not my real me.
Thank you. I have seen you twerk, Davy. You know all about this stuff.
My alter ego.
I actually always start everything with everybody with releasing.
Yeah. Wow. Really? What are we releasing? That's so interesting.
Yeah. I start by creating space, because we got so much shit and shame and junk and old beliefs that don't serve us, just jam-packed. Most people don't have space for anything new, right? We got to do some releasing first. So most of my classes, we start, the first class is releasing ritual. It's actually, we have tea, we have treats, we talk, we get to know each other, and then we do a releasing ritual to let go and make space. And then we deeply set intentions to what is going to come next, what they're wanting to achieve.
And is that normal for burlesque classes? Because what you're saying, like, I'm getting shivers. Like it's like this spiritual journey you're describing.
Yeah, no, that's not normal at all. That's the Rosie bits method. So that's the mixture of, right? Like that's the mixture of the spirituality and I was doing this long before I started practicing Tantra, but that's because I'm a Dakini, right? I knew I had an intuition and an instinct that this is what people needed.
Yeah. All right. So we start with releasing and setting an intention. And where do we go from there?
And then we start to move. And I love authentic movement. So we get over those hurdles, those ideas, which are like, I'm not a dancer, I'm clumsy, I'm certainly not sexy, right? All the blocks that come up for people, we just show. Well, the other first thing we do is we actually put the self-critic at the door. Self-critic's not allowed in my studio, waits at the door. But as those things come up, we start to just authentically move in our bodies and see what that feels like, right? And sometimes there's tears. Like there's a lot that goes through people just moving, you know, just getting into their bodies. So we just work that through. And then we learn in the burlesque classes, we learn the practicality of like, how do you take off your clothes sexy? Because if you think about this, you know, you're with a new lover at the end of the night and you're like, oh my God, this is so awkward. Like, could you turn around while I'm taking off my clothes? This is not actually yeah, totally, right? You got your Spanx on under your dress, right? It's like sausage casing. This is not sexy.
It's so awkward.
It's so awkward. So we have to learn the actual art, because there is an art to taking off your clothes, and there's an art to tease and reveal. There's an art to seduction. Mm-hmm. And so we go deeply into the art of seduction, of tease and reveal. And what the magic that happens, so the beginning, first class, I tell all my classes, there's going to be magic. Magic happens. And they, around the mid section of the classes, like about class 5, they're like, Rosie Bits, you are a liar. There is no magic. I'm breaking down. I have wasted my money on this class. This is too hard. And then the last class, and for my burlesque students, their last class really is actually a show. Just this incredible magic happens, and this breakthrough happens. And the people that I work with are like beyond their wildest dreams, are embodied. They feel sexy. They feel connected. Maybe they've never let anybody see them naked with the lights on, and they're on stage dancing and moving or performing or doing what is their creation, right? And people are losing their fucking minds watching them. Wow. Because they're magic, and the magic happens. And usually within that time period, many things have happened in their lives. Like they're having the best sex of their lives. You're right. They're getting new jobs. They're bringing in abundance. Like all the things that we talk about in Tantra gets infused in the burlesque as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's a few points in that, and something that really like struck my heart was the getting naked with the lights on for the first time. Like, wow, the shame that's embedded into us in this culture around our physical form. Like I look back at pictures from when I was like 19, and I was like this big. I was tiny, but I thought I was overweight, right? And because I was overweight at that time, I was disgusting and repulsive, right? That's the way we're trained. So the ability to heal those distortions through this magical art that you're describing, it just sounds like a whole new realm of self-connection, a whole new realm of reality.
Yeah, it is. It really is. A lot of people come not ever, like, I'm surprised. It's an expensive class, right? Like it's like $1,100. It's expensive. A lot of people come, they've got no idea what burlesque is. They don't know who I am. They've never seen me perform. And they're just like, I know, like, I just felt like something would be right.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And then they commit, and yeah, this magic happens, and it is from where they've started to where they end up. It truly is a new realm of reality. And I'm so like, it made me cry a couple times yesterday. Like, I'm just so honored that people are willing to take that leap with me, and they trust me enough to let them lead them, or let me, I don't know, I don't feel like I really lead them. I just hold really safe space. Mm-hmm. And then they do what they're going to do, which is be fucking magnificent, because humans are, right? In safe space with fertile ground, you can grow, you can be your fullest self.
Yeah. I get the image of a midwife. You're midwifing.
I am totally I'm midwifing all these like sexy, amazing, gorgeous humans. Absolutely. Yeah.
And the other piece that stood out is you mentioned the art of seduction. I want to explore that more.
Oh, okay.
Can you share a little bit about like the mindset behind that, and you know what that is, the art of seduction? Because we don't think about that, and yet it's an important aspect of being human.
Totally. And I think people bypass it, and they feel embarrassed, and they feel ashamed. Yeah. Right. And that's where like a burlesque class, or working with me at least, is like, and I know there's other tremendous burlesque teachers around the world who do this as well. So it's not just me, they have their own flavor. But being in this type of environment is a safe space to explore seduction. I know a lot of people, I hear a lot of my students, I know I experienced myself, where you're trying to be sexy, you're trying to seduce somebody, and they laugh, right? Out of probably their own discomfort, right? But you feel deeply shamed. Or maybe they say something like, you're not sexy, like, what are you trying to do? Right? And you're shut down, and sometimes you're shut down for life.
Yeah. I've had those experiences, luckily not for life, but hearing those like kind of offhand judgments, and it's like you're crushed inside and you never want to show your little flower petals again.
Oh, totally. Right. It's a really big and deep trauma for people. So it's lovely that in this environment, we are able to explore what seduction looks like, and it's safe. We start in class seducing each other, right? Like, so I talked about eye fucking, right?
Yeah. Show me some eye fucking.
I don't think I can deal with my glasses on. And if I take my glasses off, I can't see you.
I'm trying it, but I just look ridiculous right now. So.
Look, absolutely. I will be that exactly. It won't be sexy.
Okay, that's so
I will come to a show and I fuck the like bejesus out of you.
Okay, I'm in. Everybody.
Right?
Rosie's next show. Let's get eye fucked.
But we start off in class doing that for each other, right? Looking into each other's eyes, eye gazing in Tantra and Burlesque, two deeply important things. Being seen and seeing somebody. And that's such a deep part of the seduction of this art form, is using your eyes to look, right? To give that energy, but also to take it away as you, right? And cultivate it in a mindful way. And in Tantra, we do the same thing.
Yeah. And to see and to be seen are such fundamental human needs. Like I think that one of the most visceral and unmet needs for so many of us on this planet is that need to be seen and heard and without judgment, right? And it sounds like that is like the space that's provided in these events that you offer is the opportunity for people to see and to be seen in this like non-judgmental, all embracing. Yeah.
Totally. And it's such a, it's so profound to have this happen in a group. Yeah. Right? Because it's not just me. And I don't think like, that's where I tell the students, I'm like, the magic isn't me. Like I'm masterful at holding space for sure. That's my mastery. But the magic comes from the group, from everybody seeing each other, holding that unconditional love, and then being vulnerable enough to be seen. Yeah. And that's where like deep transformation, deep healing, right? Like it's so profound what happens when you have a group of people doing that. That's when, huge shit can change.
And again, I'm getting like shivers this whole time. So this is what it's like to like have a show with another Vajrayana Dakini is. It's all shivers. But as you're saying this, what's coming through is Peter Levine talking about the importance of healing trauma in community. And this concept didn't come from him. I want to give credit to the people, like he was studying folks in South America. And that was part of like their tribal wisdom, is when one of the tribal members was traumatized, it was like the healing was a community effort. They brought that person into the community and healed together. Like you cannot heal in isolation. So that's just what like is going off in my brain as you're talking about this. That's why it's so potent, is you create this, or you support this community to come together, to offer up, to release, to let go, to be seen, to all those words there. And that's why it's so potent, because we cannot heal in isolation.
No, we can't. And we need each other to normalize. We need each other to hold each other, right? Like when you see another human going through the same pain that you've experienced, your empathy naturally is going to jump up and meet that person, right? And their vulnerability is also healing for you. And you offering strength and love and compassion is, both healing for them and healing for yourself. Like there's just so many multiple levels that you're right, that we can't do on our own. And we can't, necessarily, not that I don't believe in therapy, I do, but there are multiple ways of getting in and doing this healing. And when you can do it with a group, I see things just springboard forward, right? Because in a therapist's office, you're not necessarily going to deal with the things you're going to deal with in, say, my class, when you're going to be fucking triggered and challenged every week.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Triggered and challenged. And yet I set up every class so you're also going to be successful. You're also going to have a group that is going to support you when you're hurting or when you think like this is too much, right? I'm making sure that you're going to be okay. And I feel that very much, you know, in our tantric practice and being part of a lineage-based tantric practice is the same idea, right? Mm-hmm. You're doing all these things that are scary, that are fucking challenging. Like, we are pushing ourselves to be far better people than we probably ever thought we could be, to do far greater things. And that is hard and it's scary and it brings up blocks, but we're supported within our community. We're supported by, you know, I have you, I have a Lama Tashi, we have a whole lineage. And my little burlesque community is very much like that too.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on for me right now. And one of the things is your spiritual wisdom is what directs or allows this to occur. Like what you're from my point of view, because I've seen burlesque before, from my point of view, what you're doing is so, I mean, it's a healing modality. It's a spiritual offering. I'm hearing that. And then I'll just stop there because that's what wants to come through now. So what does it mean to you to be a dakini?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I was talking with my Tantra class just a couple days ago, and I love this. I got this from Passionate Enlightenment by Miranda Shaw. Divine pride. I've been thinking about divine pride for months now, right? And I shared this with my class, the idea of divine pride. So for me, being a dakini really has a huge element of that idea of divine pride, which is not ego-based pride. It's the pride in holding myself account to be the highest incarnation of who I am. Yeah. Which means I'm always checking in, because dakini Rosie has a far higher aspiration, right, than regular Rosie. Regular Rosie just wanted to be a star and have people like love her and like whatever, right? Just want to have money to have a nice house and make sure everything's okay, which is fine. That's fine aspirations. But dakini Rosie is like, I am not leaving this life unless every soul that I touch is better for my having touched them. Wow. And I'll come back. I'll come back every time until every soul is brought up, right?
Yeah. And how much has your practice changed since being introduced or being, you know, whatever, anchored in a lineage-based style of Tantra? So how has that view evolved for you over the last few years?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like it just deepens continually. I was thinking about this. I've had a ritual, a pre-show ritual for many years, for as long as I've been performing burlesque. And it started at, I want to be the best. I want to be the best here in the show, right? I want to be the star. I want my star to shine. And again, like there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that at all. And then it moved to, okay, I want to be like a bright vehicle of creativity so that everybody here can feel this vehicle of creativity. And also good, you know, also a pretty good thing. Now it's like, you know, I want to, you know, be a vehicle for everybody's highest good to be realized. Every performer, you know, the technician in the booth, every audience member, the guy selling the tickets, I want to be a vehicle for their highest good. So whatever needs to happen for the highest good of all concerned, I am fucking up for that.
And that's such a reframe or a shift or an up-leveling is the word I'm looking for, right? To have our work or your work be about the most beneficial, appropriate, auspicious, like, and I don't even know the words. Like, I'm just so like, I've, you know, we've known each other for years. I've known about your work, but I'm getting this whole like download of just the medicine of what you offer and just the potency of it and this transformational, this evolution and this blossoming that you're able to support people through with these, you know, the strategic process because of that divine wisdom, that dakini wisdom that flows through you. That's like the umbrella, and everything else kind of occurs underneath that.
Yeah. Totally. And it's like, it's so gratifying at this point to not just have this belief system myself. So if I go on stage, you know, my audience, literally, I'm like, hey guys, I love you. Like, I want to just give you everything. I want to give you like everything you need tonight. And it's like you're in my living room. And I'm just going to open my heart to you 100%, right? So if I'm on stage, this is what I'm doing. But now I have students who are getting this so fucking deeply that that's the level of like sharing they're doing, right?
Oh, I love it.
So they're creating healing in every show they go into. They're like, what is the highest good for all concerned? How can I split myself open to give my deepest form of vulnerability and truth? And it's such a leap of courage for them, right? But it's so profound, and it's so, you just get back everything like 1,000-fold. When you are coming from that place, you're tapping into your highest self, and you're being completely rejuvenated from the energy you get back.
And what I love was that it was a process. They didn't, it's not like you just, I woke up like this. You're not just born like that. It's going from, collapse to blossom. Like, that's huge. And to be able to have a process to walk people through to get from A to Z, when they do the work. So you have a retreat coming up.
I do. I have a beautiful Learn to Love Your Jiggly Bits Tantric Burlesque retreat in Bali.
Learn to love your jiggly bits. Tell me more about that. I want to learn. I want to learn to love my jiggly bits.
So Learn to Love Your Jiggly Bits has been my burlesque class for years, my beginner's burlesque class. And I just realized that actually I need to brand a number of things under that title, because that's what people want.
Yeah.
Right? We want to love our fucking jiggly bits. We want to wake up and feel like comfortable in these bodies and not be worried about those protruding tummies or the dimples on our thighs, but be like, I'm fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And be able to deepen into sensuality. So that's Learn to Love Your Jiggly Bits, which is like the process of the burlesque I was just telling you about. And we're going to do a similar process in Bali, mixed very deeply with tantras and tantric practices, with fun, with adventure, with time for rest, because I think people need to rest and be cared for. Mm-hmm. With me, because it's Valentine's week, so mm-hmm. It's like me as like your boyfriend, girlfriend, non-binary lover. I'm gonna love the fuck out of everybody there.
So tell me about this, we need to rest, because one of the things, that I hear often, and I'm sure you hear often in our work, is like, particularly for women, like, I'm overwhelmed. I've got 2 hungry children and a crop in the field, and a dog and a cat and, whatever. So how would you support people in having more ease or spaciousness in their life to be able to make the time to do an event like this, or come to a class, or practice?
I think, so it starts with people having to make the commitment.
Yeah.
Right? You need to make that commitment to yourself. And you won't do it till you're ready, period. It doesn't matter how good what I have to offer is. Until you're ready, you're not going to do it. But it's, I cannot press on how necessary it is. I spent just this year, I'm an overworker, right? I jump into things. I've been working on it for about the last 4 years. And then this year, my body, I've taken a year off performing this year because my body has literally kicked me in the ass. And as of January, it was no more. So I spent the first 6 months of this year in and out of bed, in and out of doctor's appointments, also doing a lot of healing myself. And I had to do things I was, put off some very important medical procedures to go to Mexico and do self-healing instead. So what I say to people is, there's not a need for that. I had a number of things in my life that were very stressful, beyond kind of the regular, that also led to this, but there's not a need for that. We can do other ways. And certainly at this point in my daily practice, I make sure there's time for rest. Mm-hmm. We're not going to get anywhere any quicker. By working 12 hours a day, actually, we're probably going to do less because we're exhausted, because we're burnt out. Yeah. So make the commitment, whether it's coming to my retreat or my class, or doing something, or even just walking by yourself for 5 minutes a day, or even just sitting Mahamudra for 5 minutes or 2 minutes, right? Sitting quietly. Just make the commitment.
And one of the things that's coming to me as you're talking about is a more feminine, if you want to classify it that way, feminine approach to living, or yin approach. So it's our society is very yang, very driven, very, work till you bleed. Essentially, if you're not bleeding, you haven't worked well, right? And what I'm hearing about the work that you offer and what you're recommending to people is to really value the yin quality, the softer, the sensual, the typically what we understand as more feminine. So what kind of role does that play, like putting it in terms of like femininity and this work?
Absolutely. I think that this is what I like, my actually deep-rooted belief that this is the reason why the earth is suffering right now.
Amen, sister.
It's because we've let go of a feminine way of being. And I'll tell you, just from my personal experience this year. So this year I dropped my work way back. So I'm not performing. The first half of the year I was only teaching 3 classes a week. I was taking a few private Tantra clients, no other Tantra classes, like very little, very minimal. I've worked half the amount this year. I've made double the money.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge shift, right? Because, again, the puritanical work hard, whatever. And
it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit, right? It's like, no, actually get deeply aligned with what your purpose is. Get deeply aligned with what you have to give and give that highest part of yourself so purely, right? And then allow the universe to support you. And that's like truly been, I feel almost like, I knew that before I was suffering with health stuff. I knew that to be true. But this year was like, it was like the universe was like, no, we're going to fucking prove it to you. We're going to, number one, make you fucking sit down, woman. And number two, we're going to prove you're going to be held no matter what.
Yeah. Wow.
Your job is to stay in alignment.
So find that thing that you want to do or align yourself so fully and like hit that. I'm just feeling this high note. So will we learn how to do that at this retreat in Bali?
Yes.
Yes. Tell us more about what you have planned, like specifics, like how many days it is, what we're going to be learning, all that stuff. So for those of you listeners out there who want to come into alignment and want to take the time out of your life to commit and dive in and focus and integrate that. That's the beautiful thing about in-person experiences is you get this like somatic, like integration of the understanding. So
powerful.
Tell us all about it.
Okay. So it's 8 days. It's at this beautiful place called Pondak Wayu. We're about 15 minutes outside of Ubud. Absolutely gorgeous. So it's in the jungle, but we're on the edge of like going down into a valley that goes down to a river. So we look out over the jungle and it's just fucking magic. You just hear jungle sounds. Every little house is actually an antique traditional Balinese home or joglo, or like it's the most beautiful place you've ever seen. I found it only by chance. I stayed there earlier this year and I was like, this is the most beautiful place I've ever experienced. What I was talking about, so having community, like being able to do that transformational healing in a group of like-minded people, we got that. We're going to be doing tantric practices. We're going to be doing like all the fun of burlesque. So like a big part of the healing is going to be laughter. Is we're going to just be moving and we're going to be fucking ridiculous and we're going to be laughing our asses off and we're going to be swimming naked in the pool and we're going to be eating beautiful food and surrounded by just the most incredible nature. And there's like, what I love, I've had so much fun planning this. Oh my goodness. So many levels of planning. But one of the things I love is that there's such a great mixture of everything. So the property is all the property. We will take over all of it. So it's just us. There's places for quiet meditations. There's like little meditation huts overlooking the jungle. Places just to be by yourself very quietly. There's big communal space that we can inhabit. And then we're 15 minutes away from a bustling city. So we can go dancing if we feel like, we can go to the fancy ass spa, we can do all that stuff. But we're in our like little retreat zone where we're just, in a cocoon with each other. I also have Misty Moss, who is a dynamo photographer. So you get a jungle photo shoot done as part of the retreat.
Wow.
Yeah. Imagine your boudoir jungle photo shoot.
With leaves.
Like so fucking amazing. A friend of mine, Felicia, is coming and she'll be leading us through yoga every day. She's also a hypnotherapist. So she'll be doing one-on-one sessions with people. She's worked with people with eating disorders. Like, she's just a very special, deep human. So she's going to be there to also support and just like make sure everybody's doing well. So there's 3 of us. We're only taking a maximum of 14 people.
Okay.
So it's a lot
concentrated.
Very concentrated, very client driven.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like an amazing opportunity to let go, to dive in, to rest and replenish were the words that were coming to me. Rest and fill your cup so that we can go out into the world renewed and to shine that light even more brightly.
Totally. And to be able to like, you know, connect with your light, to be able to actually fan that spark, right? And kind of get your rudder. Because like you were saying, right, as women especially, we often feel like in total overwhelm. And so this is a space where we can actually ground, and you have a community to help you feel grounded and solid so you know where you're going next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where can we find out more about this, and where can we stay connected with you?
Go to my website. So www.rosiebits.com, and you'll see right on the top, there'll be a little thing that says Bali Retreat. Click that. Send me an email. I'm really happy to jump on a call with anybody who wants to learn more. You know, we won't even email. We'll get on a call, and I want to talk to you directly and hear your voice and have you hear my voice and make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing that's coming as we're talking is like the idea of tantric burlesque. So like, it's so interesting as I've read and studied intellectually or academically a little bit more about classical tantra, because we're trained in an oral tradition. So we learn from our teacher. That's how we don't read books, whatever, we learn from our teacher. But as I've kind of like, whatever, kind of sussed out other places and read other things, it's interesting how much of what is currently practiced as Tantra today, in many ways, is a reflection of classical Tantra, like the dancing. Like, it is so much the feminine expression of Tantra. Like, the masculine expression is like, I'm just going to sit here and blah, 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 blah. And we can do that too. But the feminine is the dakini is dancing. Like, when the dakinis are portrayed in the Buddhist, whatever, Tonkas and all that, they are dancing. They're always dancing. And that's like the signpost of a dakini is she's dancing. She's moving. She's shaking and changing and being embodied and doing things in the earth realm. So this fusion of Tantric burlesque is like the modern expression of this very ancient healing wisdom.
You know what? Totally. I have totally felt that. And I've read the same stuff you have, as well as like Lama Tashi is like, yes, when I've talked to him, because originally I was like, oh, like maybe it's not appropriate to mix this. A lot of people don't like this type of art form. They think it's, not good. And Lama Tashi was like, no, this is completely appropriate. Yeah. Right? And through the readings, absolutely, this is absolutely what we should be doing. We should be dancing and moving and feeling our sexuality and expressing it through art, right? For other people to see. I think it's so like a complete, like true representation.
Beautiful. Well, unfortunately, we have to end the show tonight. But for those of you who have been tuning in, thank you once again for joining us. And please check out Miss Rosie Bit. She is called fabulous for a reason. And if your heart was resonating with this retreat, I encourage you to dive in and explore it more. Thank you so much for doing it. Thank you so much for being our guest, Rosie. We should do more.
Love you, Devi. Thank you for having me on.
Love you too. And love everyone who's listening. Thank you so much for tuning in the first Thursday of every month. And make sure that you download the podcast, catch us on Spotify, TuneIn, iTunes, all that good stuff. Sending you much love, many blessings, and we will see you in December with the Tayomi Morgan, one of my colleagues, friends, and a sexpert extraordinary.
You've been listening to Sex is Medicine with Devi Ward, your #1 resource for holistic sex education. Listen to the replay of this and every show at medicinesex.com. That's medicinesex.com. And send your questions for Devi to answer live on the air. Connect with Devi directly at DeviWardTantra.com. That's DeviWard Tantra.com. And remember to follow Devi Ward Tantra on Facebook and Twitter.